Alrighty, guys. Let's get down to business here. Number one, if we start working, and we went over this in a couple classes, but if I didn't get through to you, you notice that's a 2, so you're going to write this parenthesis out 2 times. 2 to the negative 7th times 2 to the 6th times 2 to the negative 7th times 2 to the 6th. When you get to that point, go ahead and realize that you have to add all of these same exponents of the base. Your answer would be 2 to the something. We've got to figure out what that something is going to be. From there, you're going to add negative 7 plus 6, negative 7 plus 6, and you're going to add both those up. You're going to get negative 1 here, negative 1 there. You add those two together, you get negative 2. You cannot leave it a negative. You have to put 1 over 2 squared. Final answer. But it says choose all that apply. For that now, you have to actually look at each answer and see what's going to happen. So as I look at these answers, I got to make sure. I look at this one, 2 to the 5th and 2 to the 8th. If I add those together, I'm going to get 2 to the 3rd power. That's not what we want. We want 1 over 2 squared. What about this one? I get 4 to the negative 2, which could actually turn into 1 over 4 squared. That's not what we want either. We want 1 over 2 squared. You add here, I get 2 to the negative 2. Interesting. Negative 14 plus 2 is, or plus 12 is negative 2. From there, I'm going to get 1 over 2 squared, which is what I want. We have a winner. Here's the deal. This could also change to 1 over 4. 2 times 2 is 4. That could also be a possible answer, just to give you a heads up. All right, next problem. When we look at number 2, we realize that we have to take it piece by piece. We're going to do this part first. If we look at this properly, we realize that this negative here has to get flipped up here to the top. And when we're going to do that, we're going to go ahead and take this whole piece here, flip it up to the top, and when it flips up to the top, it turns positive. So now I have 8 squared times 8 to the 5th, which is going to equal 8 to the 7th. All right? Now, the same idea is going to happen with our 7 to the negative 3rd. That's got to come down here. So when you do that, you're going to take this, you're going to flip it down, it's going to be 7 to the 3rd, okay? On the bottom, you get 7 to the 7th, okay? Now, this one's kind of tricky. Both of these have to flip. This one has to go down here, this one has to go up. So when you do this one has to flip down, this one has to flip up. Guys, we've done this a ton. So really, it ends up looking like this, the problem. And now you have to actually battle it. And when you battle, the bottom's going to win by 4. Final answer. Okay? Number 3, super easy. What do you have to add? What exponent do you have to add to 2 to get to 8? What do you have to add to 2 to get to 8? Well, what plus 2 equals 8? It'll be 4 to the 6th. That 6 is what they want. So x would equal 6, because 6 plus 2 equals your 8. For this one, I want you to be exact. So what you're supposed to do first is take this separate. Find the square root of 45, then find the square root of 37, then add those two numbers together. If I find the square root of 45, I'm going to get 6.7. Square root of 37, 6.1. You add those two together, I'm going to get 12.8. I look at my answers. Obviously, one should jump out at you. It's going to be C, 13. This one's kind of difficult. When you look at what to the 3rd power equals 64. So the algebraic way of solving it is you have to cube root both sides. Okay? When you do that, you eventually have to figure out what number times itself equals 64. Well, 2 times 2 times 2 equals 8. 3 times 3 times 3, 3 times 3 is 9, times 3 is 27. And guess what, guys? 4 times 4 times 4. 4 times 4 is 16. 16 times that 4 is going to be 64. Okay? Others to remember, 5 times 5 times 5 equals 125. And I think 6 times 6 times 6 equals, 216. Here's the deal, though. This answer could also be a possible answer. So you could have this answer if it said select more than apply, and you could also have 4 as your answer. So 4 is technically your answer. What to the 3rd power? 4 to the 3rd power equals 64. All right? All right, number 6, Pythagorean theorem to find the missing measure. Well, let's make sure we find our L. Everybody sees our L. So this is a leg, this is a leg, and this is our hypo. We got this, okay? 21 squared plus b squared equals 35 squared. Set that up. Use your calculator. You could push pause. Go ahead and solve it. It's not too tough. 21 times 21, 441, plus b squared equals 35 times 35, which equals 1225. Now, from here, you got to make sure you understand your rules of equations, what you're supposed to do, what you're supposed to move over. So I'm going to move over my 441, knowing I want to get the b by itself. I'm going to do that math with my calculator. I'm not going to just do it in my head. I want to make sure I can use it in my calculator, so why don't you use it? And I get 784. Well, now I'm going to square root that. Don't forget, at the end, you always square root. So b actually, this is a perfect square. B actually equals 28. All right, for this one, I was able to pull up a graph. I said use graph paper for this one. Go ahead and plot these points. If I want to plot this one, over 2, down 1, down 2, down 3, down 4, down 5, right here. And if I want to do negative 4, 3, negative 1, 2, 3, 4, up 1, 2, 3. Now, if you can't plot points, you're going to be in trouble in this one. But you should be able to plot points. You guys are capable of that. Now, when I see this, I want to know the distance between here, this point, and that point. When I see that, I should be thinking, okay, this is like the hypotenuse, actually, guys. You have to create a right angled triangle, right triangle. You got to create the legs. Either way, if you want to do it this way or this way, either way you want to create it, go for it. And create your right triangle. And as I do that, I get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That side's going to be 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. If that's going to be 6, okay, now plug this in and go ahead and solve this. So as I go with this, I know this is a leg squared plus leg squared equals hypotenuse squared. I know it's 36 plus 64 equals x squared. I know 36 plus 64 is 100 equals x squared. I know to find the square root, x is going to equal positive 10. All right, little challenging with the graph paper, using the graph paper you had, but 100 is a perfect square. I know it's 10, so x equals 10. All right, number 8, right triangle. There's my L right here. You have to find your L. It's going to mess you all up if you don't find it. Equals x squared. Those are my two legs, and hypo squared. Okay, so 2.5 times 2.5, I'm going to square it. I get 6.25. Plus x squared equals 6.5 squared, which is going to be 42.25. Now, again, your algebra skills have to come into play. You're going to just subtract 6.25 to both sides. I'm going to get 36. Interesting. X squared equals 36. I say interesting because I know that number, I know it's a perfect square. I know 6 times 6 equals 36. So what number times itself equals 36? It's 6. All right? Not too tough. Next one. As I look at this one, I got to make sure. This one's kind of tough to notice what's going on. It says 10-foot rope. Okay, so I used a rope to secure a 10-foot tent pole. Actually, 10-foot pole, not rope. So the pole is 10 feet. So I'd write that down. That's 10 feet. Now, it's saying if the rope is tied 11 feet from the pole. That's right here, 11 feet from the pole. That's what's going to be tough reading this problem. It's going to say, what is this length here? So that's a hypotenuse, if you notice that, because you see this is your legs, and it even gives you a little bit of a right angle there. Okay, so it's 10 squared plus 11 squared equals x squared. Go ahead and solve it. It's 100 plus 121 equals x squared. It's going to be 221 equals x squared. Then you have to go ahead and finish it off by square rooting it. 221 square rooted, I'm going to get 14.86, which means I can bump that up to 14.9. Okay? Not too tough. The toughest part was figuring out what sides are which on this one. All right, I want you to read carefully on this one. The distance from one corner of a rectangle field to the opposite corner is 12 meters. That's this distance from one corner to another. If one side of the field is 10 meters, how long is the other side? If one side of the field is 10 meters, well, this is obviously 10 meters, guys. Don't think that's the case. They want to know, what is this side going to be? And if you're using Pythagorean theorem again, there's our right triangle. And where's our L? You should be able to see your L right there, okay? So it's 10 squared plus x squared equals 12 squared. When you do the math, I can do this in my head. I know 10 times 10 is 100. I know 12 times 12 is 144. Algebra skills, you got to subtract your 100 over. X squared is going to equal 44. To finish that off, you have to square root 44. 44 square rooted is going to be 6.6. Your answer, x equals 6.6. Is it going to be meters? Yeah, it'll be meters, okay? Alright, I think I went over this one with you guys, but if I didn't, biggest part of this problem is reading it, and it's kind of tough. It goes through vertices, which just means points. These are the 4 points. Was dilated with the center of dilation at the origin, no big deal, with a scale factor of 4. That is the big deal, especially that 4, that positive 4. So for every single point, you are going to multiply by 4, okay? Every single point. So for this one, 4 times negative 6 would be negative 24. 4 times 2 would be 8. 4 times negative 7 would be negative 28. 4 times negative 10, negative 40. 4 times 5 is 20. 4 times negative 3 is negative 12. 4 times 10 is 40. 4 times 10 is 40. All right, I did that quick. You would take your time, of course. But now, which one do you notice? I see negative 28, negative 40. Boom. But it says select 2 that apply. All right, make sure you read those questions carefully. And I see another one. I see 20, 12 right there. I don't see this one. I don't see this one. Not that they're not the answer, but I don't see it in my choices given. So C and D would be your answer on this one. All right, we're now on the other side now, page 2. So let's go ahead and look at this one. Give a sequence of 2 transformations that would verify the triangle A is congruent to angle B. Congruent, the same. They are the same size, but you have to tell me how do you know they're the same size. So I see this triangle. We talked about this a lot in class. If I want to go ahead and I could either move it down. If I move it down to this point here, and I have it like this, I would have gone, and to make sure you know how many units you've gone, I would count this point down to this point, just to be clear. And that's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 units. So I went 7 units down. Okay. Then I'm going to flip it. I'm going to flip this over to flip it over the y-axis, right, to get to this side. If I flip it, that's going to eventually be right there where we want it. And I'm going to reflect over y-axis. There's another way I could have done this. I could have reflected over the x-axis here, and then I could have translated it. Again, how many units I would think? It's going to be, from here, be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Same idea. I could have reflected over the y-axis and then translated down 7 units. So I could have just changed the order that I did it. All right? No big deal on this one, but you guys understand what's going on here. You have one question like that. All right, there's only one rule that you have to memorize when it comes to rotations on this test. There's obviously on the state test, I want you to memorize them all. But for 180 degrees, that goes from xy to negative x, negative y. All right, I want you to memorize that. So you know that rule, negative x, negative y. It's a complete opposite. So where's C at? You have to know this. This is negative 2, positive 3. So that point is at negative 2, positive 3. How could you have a 180 turn? It would go positive 2, negative 3. And that's all you would have to do. That's all you would have to explain for this one. All right, we got parallel lines cut by a transversal. If you can't see the transversal, it's kind of here going off. Usually we just have one that would go off here. But if we have angle 1 equals what, 53 degrees? If that's angle 1, 53 degrees, and you see it's a little piece here, aren't these alternate interior? So this should also be 53 degrees. And if that's 53 degrees, go ahead and follow my windshield wiper. What should it be? It should all add up to 180, right? So 53 minus 180, 127. And you can see this is a bigger piece right here too. So that's 127. Take your time on this. Look at the size of these angles. These angles are different sizes. All right, you see this lawn chair that I have here? It's a big one here. This one's a little skinny lawn chair. You wouldn't want to sit in this little skinny ones right here, okay? All right, guys, I want to explain this one. It's not as difficult as you think it might be. You have to read triangle QRS, which is right here, was reflected over the x-axis. It doesn't show you that, though. It would be over here if it was reflected over the x-axis. And then it was reflected over the y-axis. That's why we have it over here, to form another triangle, where XYZ represents the lengths of the sides. What I'm telling you guys to do right now is on your graph paper, or the paper I do give you, because I will be giving you a supplemental form here, I want you to go ahead and reflect it first. S prime, right? That's Q prime, and R prime is going to be 5 spots. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. R prime is going to be right here, okay? Once you reflect that, then it tells you to reflect over the y-axis. I'm going to use a different color. So that would be right here for R, right? R, the new R prime would be there. The new S prime would be right here. And the new Q prime, and I'm putting double primes on this because it's a second transformation, would be there. So it's asking you right here, what's the length of QR? Once it's been changed, where's my new QR over here as it's been flipped around? So what is that length actually going to be called? Z. So it's important to label these reflections that you're doing. What's the new RS? It says RS is right here. RS. So what is this length going to be called? It's pretty easy to see. It's going to be X. And then QS right here is going to be labeled with the Y right there. Okay? Kind of weird, but you have to perform the reflections to see and label the letters. Don't get lazy on me. All right, this problem's kind of annoying. Side AB is the same length as side AC, okay? If you rotate the triangle 90 degrees clockwise, what will the measure of angle A be? This whole rotate 90 degrees clockwise it's just annoying because it's not important and it starts to make you think about 90-degree rules. Not at all. Don't even acknowledge this part here. It means nothing. Worry about these two right here. And it says that these sides are equal to each other. So you know if these sides are equal to each other that these angles are also equal to each other. We've talked about this. So what you need to do is set those equal to each other using your algebra skills. So I'm going to go 6x plus 15 equals 9x minus 15. And as I solve this, I'm going to move my letter to the left. All right. I'm going to get negative 3x plus 15 equals negative 15. Then I'm going to go ahead and move my negative 15 to the right. That cancels out. I'm going to bring down my 3x, negative, don't forget the negatives, equals negative 30. From there I can divide negative 3, and I know x is going to equal positive 10. That's important to know. If x equals positive 10, what in the world is this angle going to equal? What are you supposed to do? You're supposed to take this x and plug it in there. So what's 6 times 10? This is no longer x. I know what it is. X is 10, right? So I erase that, and I'm going to get 60. And 60 plus 15? 75. 60 plus 15 is going to be 75 degrees. I know that since this angle and this angle are the same, I know this angle is going to be 75 degrees too. I could do the math and plug in x there, which would be 90. And 90 minus 15 is going to be 75. So now I have 75 plus 75. And that's going to give me 150 degrees. So they want to know the final answer is what they want to know, what is angle A going to be? What in the world is angle A going to be? What is this angle going to be? Well, this is 150 when you add them both up, so what's left? It has to be 30 degrees. It has to be 30 because 150 plus 30 equals 180. That is a tough problem. Do your best on that one, okay? Last problem. Not too difficult at all. We already had one just like this. We're multiplying every single point by 6. All right, so I'm going to write down my points real quick. Negative 6, 3, negative 11, negative 9, 5, negative 1, and 8, 7. All right, from there, I'm going to multiply them all by 6. So 6 times negative 6 is negative 36. 6 times 3 is 18. All right, do I see that on there? Nope, that's not on there. Okay, 6 times 11. All right, negative 66. 6 times 9, it's a negative 9 actually. Negative, what is that going to be, 54? Ooh, wait a minute. We have a winner here. But select 2 that apply, okay? 6 times 5 is 30. And 6 times negative 1 is negative 6. 30 and negative 6, uh-oh, I got another winner. And you just want to make sure that last one isn't for real. You make sure you didn't mess up or anything, okay? That's 48, and 7 times 6 is going to be 42. And I don't see that one on there, so we're good. A and D are your answers. All right, guys, do the best you can. Hopefully this video was helpful. You can go back to it, pause it, look over it tonight and tomorrow night, because you're going to spend a little bit tomorrow to start your benchmark, and then Thursday for sure to spend some good time to finish it. All right, guys, have a good night.